Get ready. You're listening to Give God 90 live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Give God 90. We are live on a Thursday.
And
It
guess
is-
who's here?
Yeah, you're here. You actually made it. Amazing. Amazing. Let's see. Oh, I know what we're going to talk about tonight. Believe it or not, if you are a parent, or if you have parents or have had parents, is that a good way to explain it? Okay.
I think it's a
That-
good
that-
way.
That covers everybody?
Yes.
This might be what you have been looking for. This might be something you are interested in, because tonight we're going to talk about children and kind of raising children, but not necessarily how to raise children, but why you experience some of the problems you experience. Figured it'd be a good week to do that because we're getting ready to have company tomorrow. Our other two grandchildren are coming in from Colorado, and that is going to be... You got caught, didn't you?
I did.
That's going to be something that is going to be exciting. They're here earlier, but this time they come in the hottest part of our year, so they're going to be warm. They're going to be warm.
They are.
When we think about children from a biblical standpoint, there's usually one or two or three verses that everybody quotes. What's the one that comes to your mind? Don't look at my cheat sheet.
Children obey your parents? I don't know.
Oh, that wasn't one. Okay. In fact, that's not even one I picked.
Okay.
The one that in this house that was always driven, well, I should
Now,
say
this house when you were growing
This
up,
house
or
when I
this
was-
house with our
this house when I was growing up.
Okay.
The verse that was inflicted upon my soul. That's a good way to say it, right? The verse that was inflicted upon my soul in this house growing up was spare the rod and spoil the child. I was the youngest of 4 brothers. There was nothing that could surprise my parents. I mean, seriously, they understood how to
Get your
rearrange
attention?
my attitude. Yes. The thing is, spare the rod and spoil the child is not found in the Bible anywhere. You can't find it. It's not there. The closest thing that you can find is in Proverbs 13:24. It says, and this is actually from the International Children's Version. I figured since we were talking about children, that'd be a good version to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a person does not punish his children, he does not love them. Now, let's not take that too far.
Right.
It is, you square them away. You make sure that, you're caring for them, you're feeding them, you're buying them clothes. They should be willing to do what you tell them to do, right?
Right.
That doesn't always happen.
No.
When our kids were growing up, they knew just what buttons to push, and they would do so until I had to yell, scream, jump up and down, and threaten to rip their little heads off, in which case they were more than happy to comply. Because they realized when I hit that point, it was, oops, we went just a little bit too far. So, the other verse that a lot of people look at is train a child how to live the right way, then even when he's old, he will not... he will still live that way. So, if you teach what they're supposed to be taught, then they're going to continue to do that, for the most part.
They might add their version a little bit of how it's supposed to be, but
Yeah.
for the most part, they...
Or they're going to find somebody that wants to influence them that, oh, that looks good over there, Our joke is, oh, there's something shiny. And you kind of go that way. But that's not always what's going to happen. And we're going to get into a little bit more of that in a moment. I like the next one too, and this actually comes from the International Children's Version. You want to read Proverbs 23:13.
Don't fail to punish a child. If you spank him, you will keep him from dying. Wow.
There's a huge uproar in the United States about, oh, you never hit a child. Oh, you don't lay a hand on a child. You don't do that. Folks, take it from someone with experience. There are times, no, you don't need to hit a child. You don't do it. It depends on what happened, right? There are times when that short, quick, certain, and assertive discipline is exactly what's needed. Now, I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about beating them. I'm talking about, don't touch that, it's hot. Don't touch that, it's hot. Don't touch that, it's hot. And the next time they reach for it, it's, I said, don't touch that, it's hot. They're still going to touch it because they don't believe you.
No.
But they're not as quick to touch it, and they're going to do it behind your back, not while you're watching.
Yes.
And then they're going to cry, and then you're going to get the ointment out, and you're going to go through the thing anyway. So, but it's going to happen. They will test you. They will test you. The thing is about kids, and if you really look at all of these that we've talked about, these instructions are not for the kids, are they?
No.
These instructions are for the parents. It is the parent's responsibility, it is the parent's job to discipline. It's the parent's job to punish. It's the parent's job to make corrections. It's the parent's job to, I skipped over Proverbs 29:15, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
You want to read that?
Punishment and correction make a child wise. If he is left to do as he pleases, he will disgrace his mother.
Oh, wow. Now, as far as today's society is concerned, we could be considered successful parents.
Yes.
Because today's society, the bar is pretty low.
The bar's really low.
They're still alive, right?
Right.
So that's a good thing. To my knowledge, neither one has spent a night in jail.
No.
The girl came pretty close. When we were in Colorado, Rick said, "Are you going to come get her?" And I'm like, "How late can I leave her there?" I wanted to make sure that she stayed there in the sheriff's office and had an impression.
I think it worked.
I think so. But they both have a good work ethic. They take
care of their children.
They take care of their children.
They have their own places.
And I don't say this often, and hopefully neither one of them are going to be watching this, but yeah, we're pretty proud of them, I guess.
I think so.
And I don't throw compliments out.
He doesn't.
At all. But as parents go, we're not experts. But
it's been a learn as you go thing.
And it is. And the thing is, each child is different. Each household is different. Every set of circumstances is different. What works, and we've done it both places, what works sometimes in Colorado is not going to work in Delaware.
Right.
What works, in Alaska is not going to work in Florida.
No.
You can't tell a child, don't open the door, you'll let a walrus in Florida.
No.
It's not going to work, right?
Right.
Okay. But all of these instructions are for parents. And Ephesians 6:4 even, fathers, don't make your children angry, but raise them with the training and teaching from the Lord. That is kind of an interesting thing. Because when we think about raising children, you're going to make them mad.
Oh, you're
They're-
going to make them really
And
mad.
this doesn't mean...
I hate you.
Yeah, it means you're doing your job. This doesn't mean, you should never make a child mad. What this is don't do it on purpose. Don't expressly do something that is going to cause them aggravation. Because that just adds fuel to the fire. That just adds to the grief. I'm going to make a broad statement here and say, if our parents would have raised us with all of this information, and they tried, but if they'd have done it with the understanding of what we're going to talk about in a minute, I think, number one, we probably wouldn't be sitting here together. We'd be somewhere else. And number two, we'd probably be much different people. If we did wind up together, things would have certainly changed. Because what we're going to look at next is in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4 is something every Jewish household today is familiar with, whether they are, how should I say this? Whether they are, yes, I did. Okay. Wanted to make sure I didn't have technical issues there. Whether they are Karaite, whether they're Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, even the Reformed Jews know this part of this by heart, right? Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. And you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your might. These words that I command you today shall be in your heart. Huh? It's not saying they already are. It says they will be, because shall is future tense. He says it's going to happen. These words will eventually be there. But the next verse, you will teach them diligently to your children. Now I'm going to ask for forgiveness later, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What does the word diligently mean to you?
Work hard at, to just keep going and going and going after it.
Kind
Whatever
of, yes.
it is.
That's actually a good description of diligent in English. There's a problem, though.
It's not what it means in Hebrew.
That's not what it says in Hebrew. Kinda, but not quite. The word in Hebrew for teach them is the same word you would use to sharpen a knife. It means, you know the term wetting a knife?
Mm-hmm.
Where you rub it on a stone?
On the stone when it's wet.
It is to rub with abrasion. And when you do that, and you've watched me sharpen lots of knives, you've been the victim of a sharp knife in our house. When you do that, that junk gets pushed away in either the water or the oil, depending on what kind of stone you're using, right?
Right.
And what you're left with is a razor edge if you do it properly. That's what that word diligently means. You teach it to them in such a way that it sharpens their skills of Scripture. It actually, what you're doing is really getting in and honing their personality. You're honing their skills. You're honing their knowledge of the way they're designed to live. I would venture to guess that neither of our parents did that for us.
No. No.
It's amazing we got where we were.
I know. And if we had known a lot of this raising our children, things probably would have been
much different. Yes.
But now we can do it with the grandchildren.
And you're a little bit getting ahead of me because that's what I want to talk about next. Because what we've talked about so far is younger children, right? But we have a odd situation because our children are grown, our grandchildren are coming up. Your parents are still alive, but mine aren't. So we're kind of stuck in that place where we found this and the way we're designed to live at a point in time when our children were starting families, your parents were getting ready to settle into their retirement senior years. So now we have this really weird situation because your parents look at us and say, well, why are you doing this? You can't earn your way into heaven, right?
Right.
We don't understand. All you have to do is this. And I can't not take this little trip. No, you don't have to earn your way into heaven. And why would you want to earn your way to some place that's going to be destroyed anyway? Because in the end of Revelation, it says you get a new heaven and a new earth.
Mm-hmm.
For the first heaven and the first earth that passed away.
Right.
Why would you want to go somewhere that's not going to be there in the future?
True.
Okay. Back off the trip. It's not earning your way into heaven. It's living the way that the Almighty designed you to live so that you can have an improved and better life. You can recognize the blessings that the Almighty has given you. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that because for their 76 to 80 plus years now, they have been trained differently. Mm-hmm. Our kids, on the other hand, are they're seeing this as, well, wait a minute. Even though we were raised in a church atmosphere, we don't understand because now all of a sudden you're talking about there's more to it than everything we've learned before.
Right.
It's like, yes, it's not just about the destination, it's about living the way you're designed to live so you can have an improved, better life, so you can understand the blessings that the Almighty wants to give you.
Right. I hope everybody caught that.
I've said it so many times, it just kind of spews out now. Nowhere in Scripture does it say, hello, I need to be careful how I say this. No place in Scripture does it teach. All you have to do is have faith. Because if all you had to do was have faith, James would not have written that even the demons believe and they are terrified. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, demons have faith. Demons have all the faith in the world because they know what the truth is. And it terrifies them. Mm-hmm. Because they're not living according
they're
the way they're supposed to live. Right. They're not living the way they're designed to live by their Creator. They have rebelled and are doing different things. All of that comes down to this weird dynamic that we have between parents and children. And I'm going to strongly suggest that the biggest rub there is between parents and children is because parents are not teaching their children diligently. They're not teaching their children without abrasive edge. They're not honing their skills in Scripture. A lot of parents today, like us, didn't come to this understanding until later. Mm-hmm. We're working on it.
Right. Some parents today don't have any understanding of Scripture because they've never been exposed to any kind of true belief where it's been ingrained in them. It's just kind of, I went to church on Christmas and Easter.
Well,
or my grandmother went to church and I went a couple times with even then. That's not being exposed to.
Yeah. Well, or even the fellow who told me a few years ago that his first exposure to any type of Scripture was a Charlie Brown Christmas where Linus steps out on the stage and quotes Luke chapter 2. Mm-hmm. Now, he was in his 30s when he said that. So he's probably in his maybe 40 now, somewhere around there. So here's a fellow who was really an adult before he had any exposure to any of that kind of stuff. But as parents today who are having their eyes open, they're actually figuring these things out, we have this strange confusion where now we have to not only explain to our children, but we have to explain to parents as well, mm-hmm. right?
Yes.
So there's that confusion in dynamic that we're looking at. And like I said, we're not here to explain how to clear up that confusion. We're just here to tell you why it exists.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of it, because your situation, everybody's situation is going to be different.
It is.
When, what works for us might not work for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It probably won't work for somebody else. We're just that weird.
Yeah. That's
We
true.
are anything other than the average American family. But here's the thing. It says, "Hear Israel, if you have placed your faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that ties you into Israel. You now are the Hear Israel."
Mm-hmm.
Paul says you're either grafted in or adopted, whatever you want to, whatever word you want to use there. Both of them are going to end. You're going to wind up the same place. Most of the King James and the other versions are going to say sojourners. It means you've joined together. You're now of not necessarily one mind, but you are of. It's not like you're two people riding on an airplane, but you don't know each other. You just go into the same place.
Right.
You've actually known each other. You've gotten on the airplane together to go somewhere. And Deuteronomy says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul." And the word there is not all your might. It's all your, and the Hebrew word is mayod. It's all your very, is how it's typically translated. Tov mayod, very good. The mayod is all the very. It's everything you got, everything that's left, everything that's there. And these words, which I command you this day, will, at some point, be put in your heart. Once you start down that process, it's not like it's automatically downloaded. Okay? You don't get this million terabyte download of information into your brain. It's a process. It's not going to all happen at one time.
Tiny pieces at a time.
And sometimes it's kind of like the old dial-up system. It takes forever to download a kilobyte of information, which is like nothing anymore.
Minute.
Right? Yeah. So, don't think that, even though there are people whose lives have been changed in an instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen for everybody. You didn't get where you are today, most of the time, even overnight.
Right.
Depending on your age, it's taking some people many, many years to get as far out of whack as they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why Give God 90 gives you the opportunity to make small changes over a period of time so that you can kind of turn your ship back to where it needs to be. But then, how would an adult child respond to an older adult parent, who is trying to teach them Scripture diligently, or, they're trying to hone? Sometimes they're going to reject it, because they're going to look at you and say, "That's not what you've taught me all my life," if they've even been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be looking at this saying, no. Especially in the United States, they're going to look at it and say, well, you know what? We've always been taught the easy way. We've always been taught it's the destination. We've always been taught it's where do we get, and is it in tradition to truth, or is it in God's universe, God's rules, that I say Americans and Western civilization in general is very, very used to getting to their destination the quickest, cheapest way possible.
I think it's tradition to truth.
Is it tradition to truth?
I think.
We have been trained in this country to, look at a destination and say, we want to get there the fastest, cheapest, quickest way we can. That's just the way we are. Mm-hmm. We're so used to,
instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Basically.
Friend of ours, excuse me, she's used to, if she has a day off, she will get up early, drive to the airport, get on an airplane, fly to Florida, spend a couple of hours at Disney or one of the Disney theme parks.
Right.
That evening, she'll get on an airplane, fly back. You know, good for her that she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
My question is why?
Because she likes it.
Okay. But wouldn't you rather, build up some time instead of spending a couple of hours there, be able to spend some quality time there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's us, but I'm I'd rather spend longer quality time than short, meaningless time. I don't know. That's just the way I am. Rather do something worthwhile than make a quick fix out of it. But that's the way Americans are trained. You get there the fastest way possible. And the way the modern Christian churches approach this is, don't you want to go to heaven? And again, I'll say, why do you want to go somewhere that's not going to be there? Why do you want to go somewhere that's going to be destroyed? Nowhere in Scripture does it say when you die you go to heaven. Nowhere. That's not your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is to live the best life you can today so that when the resurrection does take place, hopefully you can be there in the first resurrection, be at the marriage supper of the Lamb. And if something happens and you don't get to that one, then you get to be at the next resurrection where a whole lot of people are going to be disappointed because they have missed the boat.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be, that's a whole nother lesson for another time.
Lesson.
But the dynamic is between parents and children. Once you understand the confusion, once you understand why there's a problem, then you can work on it. Because if you try to fix it according to what you think you know without understanding the problem, if, let's use this analogy. If a mechanic needs to fix a car and the problem is with the battery, okay, why would the mechanic put a fuel pump on the car when the battery's the problem?
I don't know. You should have asked him. Maybe because he wanted to make more money.
But that's but that's what's going on with when parents and children a lot of times are at this. It's not really it
like
can
a stalemate?
It can be a stalemate. Yeah, it can be a problem point because one of them, is looking at it and they're saying, well, the problem's with the battery, and the other one's looking at it saying, no, the problem's with the fuel pump. And then sometimes you get somebody else, maybe another sibling, saying, well, no, the problem's with the flat tire. So, unless you're working on the same problem, it just leads to more confusion and more grief a lot of times for whoever's involved. But hopefully, whether it is a sibling trying to explain it to a parent or a parent trying to explain it to an older child especially, don't point to one specific thing and say, well, no, it's not this, it's this. What you should be saying is, overall, we're simply trying to live the way we are designed to live by our Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone would do that, then everyone would already be following all of these instructions, and parents wouldn't have the problem because they'd already been raising their children this way, and the children would grow up this way, and they would understand this way, and they would know that when the parents are trying to abrasively hone their skills, what the parent's actually trying to do is get rid of all the junk that's keeping them from being sharp. Mm-hmm. Because nobody wants to raise a dull kid.
No.
See how I got that, right?
I did.
Okay. I've been waiting all night to do that joke.
I know you have. I saw you leading up to something.
Everybody has an agenda. Even me. Now, the interesting thing is Deuteronomy doesn't stop with just teach them diligently to your children. We are to talk with them, when we sit down, when we walk by our way. You're to consider them when you lie down. You to consider them when you wake up. You are to... Now, some people actually take this literally, and they... I can't remember the name of the little box that some of the Orthodox wear. Bind them for a sign on your hand, and well, the little box goes between your eyes, but they have the... I can't think of the name of it. The leather wrap that goes around their arm. That is the part there about bind them for a sign on your hand and be the frontlets between your eyes. Now, the one thing that a lot of people should be doing is you will write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. We do actually have the mezuzah in the front and back of our home. When Conley's was getting ready to build their building, when the stud walls went up, they said, people would come in, they wanted people to write Bible verse, and I went to every door and wrote Deuteronomy 6:4, and actually put the blessing on there. So that's on every stud wall. You go to, when they take the doors off, if they ever take the doors off, they'll see that. So it's there, because I knew they would never ever agree to put a mezuzah on the door. But beside the point. The thing we have to remember is this is all a process, and you have to work through it. But understanding where the confusion comes from is a huge part of overcoming the barriers and the boundaries. I talk to a lot of people, and that is the biggest thing I see, especially parents and children. They both want the same thing. They're both trying to get to the same place, but they're riding in a broken car, and one's pointing at a flat tire and one's pointing at a battery. Mm-hmm. You need to understand that the car you're riding in needs to work if you're going to reach your destination. Right. So it would be wonderful if everybody would follow these instructions from the get-go, but that's just not going to happen.
No.
But understanding why it doesn't happen is a huge key to understanding where that problem comes from. So I don't know if we're going to get to it next week or not, because the kids are going to be here, and I might embarrass them and interview them. I interviewed Blair after we went to the Bible Museum. She had a blast with that. So we might interview the kids next week, but I actually want to talk about the relationship between adult parents and adult children. And some of the things that the problems come from actually youth. When the children are small, they're trained a certain way. Parents sometimes tell them things that aren't exactly true. They keep information from them that the kids really need. And it actually, the problem really intensifies as they get older, because now you've got older parents who still don't want to tell their kids things, and the kids may not know some things that they need to know to make good decisions to help their parents. Mm-hmm. So we need to have that discussion as well, because that actually builds on this, but it also is part of that honor your father and your mother kind of a thing. So how do you do that if your parents aren't giving you the information you need to know to honor them, right, like being taught diligently what the Scripture is and honing your skills in Scripture? So all of that in the near future. But like I say, next week, I don't know what we're going to do. I may embarrass the kids. It's hard to tell. But we'll do something, and it will be maybe fun, maybe interesting. I think this was fun.
It was.
Well, you just like talking about your grandkids.
I do.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. Have a blessed week.